We're going to bring in Cole Cubelic from an airport. Where is Cubelic right now? Is he joining us live from Dallas? You've got the full headset on. You look like you're in air traffic control. What are you doing?
We were delayed leaving Birmingham. Apparently, there was an IT failure / shutdown on American Airlines in Birmingham. So we missed our connection here in Dallas. We're going to wait about an hour before we go get another one. The people around me are very annoyed right now. I apologize to them, and there has to be a better way to do this. I mean, I've got like cords here, are all the cords that I have in the bag, MiFi out. You can see that, connections for all kind of stuff here. It's a lot,
Right.
but this is what I do for you, regardless of what those people on Twitter say, that it's an embarrassment that I would join you from an airport when I feel like I'm going out of my way to join you from an airport when I told you originally I might not be able to hop on tonight. So you're welcome.
Yeah, congratulations to us all. By the way, have you just considered renting a car? It's a 3-hour drive.
I had and I did, and this the next leg's already delayed. So yeah, if this goes any further back, I'm just gonna go get a car and go. I told the lady, I said, I'll go get a car and drive. She goes, no, you're better off doing this. I said, probably not, but we'll give it one more
No,
go.
dude, take it from
I
someone.
gotta go on with Pate, and I couldn't do that from a rental car.
Yeah,
I
that's
can't drive
true.
and do your
Yeah,
stuff.
don't do the thing that McAfee has, where everyone's just in a car. Don't do that. No, this looks a whole lot better. It looks classier. So I got up this morning and I was doing some show prep, and I never like to listen to anyone's show, but I turned on you and McElroy this morning, and you guys were talking about the Texas-Michigan game. I texted you. Naturally, you responded an hour later when the context was lost, and you just sent a question mark. The total of this game's in the low 40s. So we were talking earlier tonight. The style of game, I mean, an odds maker is implying like a 25-17 final. That is not typically the kind of game that you consider Texas and Sark being comfortable in. My biggest question about this thing, you can tell me what you think about this. My biggest question is, has that program gotten to a point where it's totally comfortable in just a total fist fight? Because perception is Michigan turns it into that. Well, Michigan's set. Well, I don't know if they can score, but even if they can, what if Texas is kind of secretly more equipped for that than anyone thinks?
I feel like you maybe watched that podcast that I may be on also this week when I talked about the Texas offensive line and how I was a little bit concerned that it was very east to west week one. And I feel like they're a group that has a bunch of veterans and they can be physical. They didn't really go right at that Colorado State defense. Now, some of that is going to be what Sark wants to build and attach around everything that they do. I think physically they can hold up against this Michigan football team. I was impressed with the interior of the defensive line that Texas put out there. We kind of forgot about Bill Norton. We didn't talk enough about him, former Georgia D tackle, been in Arizona for a few years. I thought he had a great game. And it was 4 or 5 guys that rolled in and played fairly well inside for that Texas defense. Now, doesn't mean that just overall they're more physical than Michigan or they're going to push Michigan around, but I think they have better players. I think they're more athletic and faster. So therefore, like if you defended Texas well, what are we looking at? 21, 24 points? I don't think there's a chance in hell that Michigan can get to that. Even if the secondary still is porous like it was a year ago, they didn't get tested against Colorado State, so we don't know. And Texas is going to be better rushing off the edge. So I think they could go more quick game, essentially run the ball through the air, extend the run game out to the perimeter. And I'm going to tell you, Josh, I've watched Michigan again on the plane ride here. They looked human. And they looked human in parts where I didn't anticipate that they would look human. The edge defenders were able to get a consistent pass rush. The interior guys got pushed around at times, a couple of times, not every time, not consistently. And I will also say this, Fresno State, since you listen to McElroy and I, kind of our adopted sons, our football team that we love to watch play, they're graduating just future bar bouncers year after year. Like that's the kind of individuals that they have playing on the line of scrimmage. So I was a little disappointed with what I saw inside for Michigan. Now, those guys are still going to be drafted early and they're going to be fine. But I think Texas's defense can be enough. And by default, I think Texas puts up enough points to go win this football game.
Yeah, whoever's running the
poll. But I think I know where you're going, and I do like the under, though.
Yeah, yes,
I do
likewise.
Like
so this whole thing with allegedly not being able to draw anything from week one if you play inferior competition has always been a little suspect to me, although I get it. So I watched Bama finally in its entirety. I assume you did as well. I'm told you do radio in Birmingham every morning. What did you take from a 62-0 win over Western Kentucky? Thoughts compared to what you thought about the team before you saw them play?
Okay, so some of the questions that I had were the secondary, how they would sort of adapt to this vision coverage that Kane Womack was going to employ. It was going to be new, it was going to be different. And I'm actually interested to see, I think that actually could be a better scheme against this sort of Baylor spread up tempo, push the ball down the field offense that Heupel runs and now Golish is running, because we've seen Nick Saban's defense get caught against that just a little bit. Now, what they won't be, well, they will be against this team, but not later against Tennessee, is physical enough to play fewer numbers inside, stop the run, and then dedicate those defenders outside. This coverage will be different, so I don't think that really matters as much. I wanted to see how the secondary players would sort of adapt to that. If you watched Read and React Monday night, Roman Harper gave a really nice demonstration as how the linebacker play would have reacted to some things under Coach Saban, yet is reacting now under Coach Womack. And it's a little bit more zone principle based. I thought the linebackers looked sleeker, and I don't know if it's going to number 0 or number 11 for Jihad Campbell and for Deontay Lawson, but they looked like they changed their bodies. They looked faster, and the edge defenders was something I had big question marks about. And those guys got to the quarterback. I think you may have found Quay Russo being your guy there for a little while. Quandaris Robinson had a couple of nice wins off the edge, so I feel okay there. And then I think now the only question that really comes out that's left of it is still want to know who the go-to receiver is going to be, because Jeremy Bernard didn't get a lot of targets and we kind of thought it was going to be him. And what's the tackle position going to look like? Because you had Booker out at tackle a little bit in practice this week. You had the pregame injury to Caden Proctor, so that causes the 5-alarm fire. You start scrambling, moving guys around. I want to see if that position is going to be able to solidify. However, one position that you and I have talked about, and I've told people about this, the tight ends blocked very well for Alabama last week. They weren't asked to do a ton of it, but they'll be able to lean on that group to help whoever that is for a little while. So I came away probably more pleasantly surprised with Alabama than I thought I would.
Do you have any scenario in your mind where you think NC State has a legitimately good chance to knock Tennessee off? I painted a couple of them earlier tonight. What's the path if it just outright happens?
The path for that to take place is number one, it's going to take mistakes. And from what I saw from Nico Iamaleava, I don't think you're going to get those mistakes. And this goes back to what you just said. This is a perfect example of it. Don't take Chattanooga and say, what did he do against that team, or against who, as people like to say. Take the actual throws that he made into certain coverages and where the ball placement was on those throws. And that can give you a little bit of a picture moving forward of just how talented this young man is and what he may be capable of doing. And another player that I know you and I have talked about that we saw that kind of proved it, Dylan Sampson, is going to be dynamic. I think they have to have him. The thing is, NC State is a team that will welcome a fist fight. No Dave Doran team is ever going to back down from that. So they have a solid front seven, even losing Peyton Wilson from a year ago. Are they going to be able to play with 3 to 5 in the box, manage the run game, limit those explosive runs, get into some 3rd and longs, and then have extra bodies to take away some of the quick throws, which then negates a little bit of the RPO game? You're going to have to deal with the tight end because I think that position is pretty good for Tennessee this year. Is it likely? No, but it's going to have to be a lot of Grayson McCall, because I still think if you're going to get Tennessee, you have to get them on their back end. And the defensive line's solid. They have maybe the best pass rusher in college football. So is that likely? It is not. You'll need some mistakes. And I just don't know who's going to make it for Tennessee right now. I know it's one game, lower tier competition, but who are we relying on to throw multiple interceptions or fumble multiple footballs? That just doesn't feel like something that's going to happen.
So Florida State goes over to Ireland. They get beat by Georgia Tech. They come home, double-digit favorite. They get beat again outright by Boston College. So everyone looks at that second game, the one we watched Monday night. That's supposed to be the get-right game, and you don't get right. They're saying the same thing about Clemson versus App State. Clemson's offense has been, in my mind, fairly pedestrian for a while, and I think almost it's been glossed over because a majority of the criticism, if Dabo and Clemson get criticism, is it's the transfer portal stuff. It's people don't think that he is using all the talent acquisition means at his disposal, which I agree with. I think that's true. But also, while I think it's totally unfair to say star quarterbacks bailed him out in the past, well, he recruited those guys, so you get credit for that. While I think that's unfair, I do think it's fair that if he's got anything less than a star quarterback lately, that looks really average up there. I was talking to a guy the other day in a world that would know, and he said, Garrett Riley, there was a big deal made when he got hired at Clemson. Behind the scenes, that wasn't viewed as this like overwhelming bombshell game-changing hire. It's been more of the same in terms of result overall up there. So App State's coming in there. It's a big win profile. They went to A&M. They did it last year. They'll be comfortable enough on the road. It wouldn't shock me at all to see that thing single-digit game in the fourth quarter. How do you see it?
I love Clemson's front seven. And if they can find a way to neutralize the stretch play, I think Clemson's defense will be fine in this game. I don't think App will be as balanced as some people believe. And I think if they can find a way to neutralize that play, you stop the bootlegs, the play actions, and you take away some of the deep shots. Going back to your point of the quarterback, I think it's totally fair, and I think it's accurate because, let's be honest, whether it was Chad Morris or whether it's Garrett Riley, this is a quarterback-driven system. It's not one that you can usually thrive under without way above average quarterback play. There are some systems that are built for a guy that's maybe not uber talented to just do what the coach is asking them to do, deliver it to playmakers on a regular, consistent basis, and then you can make that offense go that way. I don't think this offense is that. I don't think Cade Klubnik is that guy. I don't think he's an elite college quarterback. Therefore, the skill, be it good, is not elite, and your quarterback is not elite inside that system. How many years have they been telling us the offensive line is going to be better? And it hasn't been. It's pretty much the same year in, year out. So it's not going to be the same test up front that Georgia was. But App State, another team that physicality is not really going to be a problem. I'm anxious to see games like this, Josh, because one of my massive takeaways from week one was there's always been a gap. And I don't know if you saw this or you see it the same way. The gap between the FCS and Power 4, Group of 5, whatever you want to call either one anymore, it is dramatically different than I feel like it has been the last 6 or 7 years. And what I'm wondering, and I don't think we really know just yet, is that going to happen, maybe not to the same extent, but to an extent that the Group of 5 gap is going to now widen to where the Power 4 is pulling away that much further, because we see all these lower tier players going to different schools and having success. Very rarely do we see even average or even below average Power 5 players going down to the Group of 5 or to the FCS. So some of these teams are just continuously having quality players plucked away year after year after year. Hell, we got Alabama and Georgia and Clemson and A&M and Ohio State complaining about not being able to replace that, Josh.
Yeah.
How the hell is App State going to replace that? How is Samford going to replace that? Like, it's literally not possible. So games like this will tell us, I think, we need a pretty big sample size where that gap really is.
Yeah, and it's going to take a while for an odds market to adjust to that. So Adam Lichtenstein, who covers Florida sports, Miami specifically for the Sun Sentinel, he put out a tweet earlier today. He said, Miami continues to grow their football staff. In their media guide, I count 37 off-field personnel. Last year they had 29. In 2022, they had 27. So you and I have talked on the phone about this a lot. I don't know that we've ever talked about it on the show. Everyone knows what the transfer portal does to the top of the G5 and FCS rosters from a player's perspective. Those coaches are doing the same thing. Those coaches, because of the new NCAA rule, are leaving. They've already started. That will exclamate itself fivefold this December when every major Power 2/Power 4 program understands we can go get off-field guys and they can actually now coach on field. So I can go, I'm telling you right now, like I'm standing at a Power 4 practice this spring, and I am having a director of football operations walk me through his coaching roster, and he's saying, yeah, this guy here, he's an off-field analyst. He would have been a position coach at New Mexico State. This guy here, he would have been a coordinator at like Utah State. He's an off-field analyst. So they're not moving in a classical term laterally. They're moving backwards to a significant degree perceptionally, but it's not to those guys. They're doing whatever they can to get on a Power 4 coaching staff before, the ship departs from the dock, and it's impossible to jump from one to the other. So I think what you're seeing, it's still at the early stages of that happening too. Like that gap only grows wider, which leads us into this whole other conversation about how you've got a playoff system right now that bakes in a guaranteed spot for a G5 just because what? Just because they've got to be baked in. And 2 years from now, when they've got that look-in provision, I think they'll take a long, hard look at that, and I think they hate me for it, but in retrospect, I think our friends in the G5 will regret the day that they poo-pooed the idea of proactively trying to build their own postseason, not subsidized from that Power 5 playoff paycheck, which may not always be there.
Well, let's be real. They're hanging on to mama's boob right now still, because there's a little bit left and they want some of that drip. Okay. And so whatever the wheel or percentage of the slice of the pie is for them right now, if it's $1 billion, $8 billion of revenue coming in, if it's going to be cut all the way down to 2%, 1%, a half of a percent, I would imagine most of those programs, Josh, are looking at that saying, well, that's more than we're going to get doing the other thing. And no one knows what the other thing really is. So until Mark Cuban steps up or Tim Cook steps up and says, we will build you a playoff and we will fortify it with all the finances that you need moving forward for X amount of years, no one's going to take that chance, because they know if it doesn't work, they literally crumble. And then if you start talking about taking away some of these pay games at the same time, by maybe that risk being some of the fallout from that, they're definitely going to be gone. On the portion of your coaching conversation, if people don't understand how that's operating, look no further than Chip Kelly, the head coach in what in our lifetimes has been a destination job. Not saying that it necessarily is right this second, but has been and will be getting similar checks to some of those rarefied air schools that you just mentioned from a media rights perspective moving forward. And he decides to say, no, thank you, sir. I'm going to go over here for less money and less responsibility to assure myself safety moving forward and hopefully have a little bit more fun along the way. So now just go down 4 rungs, 2 rungs, 100 rungs. And that's what all those guys you're talking about are doing, is they're trying to solidify their job security moving forward by being able to have something else or something different in what is a more sustainable model financially moving forward.
I thought what you said, candidly, was one of the top 5 breastfeeding G5 metaphors I've ever heard. Some people in the live chat didn't like it. Do you have anything you want to say?
I don't know what there wasn't to enjoy about it, and I don't know what any human on earth would not understand about it. It seems to be something that is along the lines of natural selection and natural process, but maybe there are aliens listening to the show and we don't know that.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, I don't know how to communicate with them. I don't know what their upbringing was like, or how they were fed, or how they were nourished as infants or baby whatever ends. So that's a them problem, not an us problem. We are humans, and we will speak in human terms and give human examples for the rest of our days.
Pop it out. That's it. You need to go board a flight. I got to get you out of here. You get ornery when you travel. Cube Show. That's the name? It's Cube Show on YouTube?
It might be out there somewhere. I don't know. And it is embarrassing that we had to use photographs this week because I'm an idiot and our video didn't work. But guess what? I think our video did better than all the other last 15 videos we've done.
There you go. So it turns out
there's 2 ways that we get views. 1, don't put my face on there. 2, have Josh Pate on.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's misery.
Okay, go to Oklahoma. I'll see you later.